Hey everyone, welcome back to Make It Happen Mondays, where we talk about sales, business, entrepreneurship, personal growth, mental health, and everything in between with guests who I truly respect and I think make a positive impact on the world around us. And today's conversation is with Larry Kim. Now, Larry is the CEO and founder of Customers.ai. And prior to Customers.ai, Larry is the founder of WordStream, a leading pay-per-click software company managing over $1 billion of annualized ad spend for tens of thousands of agencies and businesses globally, which was acquired by Gartner in 2018 for $150 million, which is pretty damn impressive, and where we kind of started the conversation, quite frankly. Well, as always, we do background stories, and it's interesting. He has a electrical engineering degree, which is what my dad had. And he's an engineer. There's no question about it. We even got into this later on. You've heard me say before on the podcast, and probably if you follow me on social, that I have an approach or a nexus about it doesn't matter what you sell, it matters how you sell. And, you know, these days, your product, it better do what it can do. That's table stakes at this point, because otherwise you're not even invited to the table to have the conversation about it. But then it's how you sell, which really makes a difference, right? He takes a little bit of a different approach here, because especially in his industry, there is a very specific metric of as far as data quality that they're measured on. And he's got something that he claims is about 80% accurate compared to his competitors who are more like 5 to 20% accurate. And that's a pretty damn big difference. So for his industry, he really focuses on the product and the engineering side of the house. But he has a healthy respect for the go-to-market strategy, which is where we got into founder-led sales. You know, he did, after his company with WordStream, and getting into Customers.ai, he did the typical, hired a VP of sales and put them through the process, and they came in with all the wonderful things they said they could do. But within a couple of months, he realized, ooh, wait a minute, this isn't going the right way. So he let that person go, got back involved, slimmed down his sales team from, I think, 11 to about 4, and tripled the results. And he really says, the main reason was he just got customer focused and what does the customer need, improving ROI, and really putting them through a process that ensured it. So we talked a lot about the learning lessons all throughout, and as far as hiring, scaling, how he keeps things aligned. And so it's, again, an interesting combination of sales and product, with him leaning a lot more on the product and the engineering side, which is definitely contrary to what I believe. So we got a good conversation around this. So hopefully you enjoyed it as much as I did. Well, let's make it happen. Larry Kim, welcome to the Make It Happen Monday podcast, my friend. How you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, Joe.
Yeah, thanks for coming aboard. This is, I was looking forward to this after doing a little bit of prep on you and where you've been and what you're doing these days. It's kind of, right in the thick of things. So before we get into we're going to talk about founder-led sales and bootstrap versus VC and, how do you stand out in today's bananas world right now. But before we get there, I always love to hear the origin story here, Larry. Like, not just the stuff we can see on LinkedIn, but talk to us about like where you grew up, parents, what gave you the bug to kind of get into entrepreneurship and running businesses and all that stuff. And then we'll take it from there.
Sure. Well, I'm from Canada, and the entrepreneurship bug was through my mother, who was an entrepreneur, but just like a piano teacher. And believe it or not, you can learn everything about business from one of these small businesses. Like, she would put flyers in the church newsletters or in the bulletin boards or the announcements for the schools around there. She would, like, I didn't realize this, but like when we moved, like, we would always be living next to a school. And I later found out that I was like business development, like, because
that's ICP right there, man.
So it's like, you can just walk here from after school.
Genius.
So I just learned a lot about marketing and ICP and taxes, like that you could actually make that money and keep most of it, instead of my father was or is a government worker, and in Canada their taxes are like 50-60%, and it's pretty brutal.
Yeah. Cool. So then, and I actually, you know what? I didn't check. That's the one thing I didn't check out. Where'd you end up going to school? And what'd you study?
So then, I'm an electrical engineer. I went to University of Waterloo in Canada. It's kind of like a boot camp for engineering. And originally studying like power systems and like, power distribution and this kind of stuff. But later, learning about software in like third or fourth year, and that was like 1999 2000 ish, like during the dot-com boom. And I did an internship in Silicon Valley with semiconductor companies, and it's just like, oh my god, like this is so amazing. Everyone's just getting rich off of these software companies. It was even like a pets.com or like little, and like we're gonna do this online, and that just got me thinking like I need to switch all my third or fourth year electives and just focus on software. And that was sort of the entry point into a career in software development slash product management and marketing. That's
nice. Yeah,
and here we are selling sauce.
My dad was
God.
There you go. My dad was an electrical engineer too. And I know like, PhD, all that stuff, super smart dude, never got out of his own way when it came to like building businesses or anything like that. But, the AWACS, that plane that flies down. So he was part of the team that actually built that. And so my mom's an artist, my dad's, an electrical engineer. And so I kind of have both the art and the science, which kind of put me in, I lean more towards the art with the sales side of the house, but I take a very scientific, structured approach to it. But it was always fascinating to me that the application of engineers, and I would, from an engineering standpoint, right? Because we're gonna talk a lot about go to market and how you fired with the most recent with Customers.ai, you kind of fired your VP of sales and went and founder led sales. But when did it shift for you, or when was the realization for you on your journey from being an engineer to understanding kind of the importance of sales, go to market strategies, those type of things? Because I find a lot of engineers still believe that the product is, you just got to build the best product and they will come, versus the sales angle to it, realizing that, it's almost table stakes these days as far as the product can do what it can do. And you have to get out there and market. So where in your journey were you kind of exposed to the importance of the sales component of building the business?
So early on in my career, I was just building software for, building and product managing software for various software companies, like B2B software companies. And it just early on, this was like, the genesis of Google and Facebook. This was like the 2000s. And basically, we used to like, do print ads and trade magazines and stuff like, going to these, I guess the events are still around, but like I was actually Google's largest customer back in 2001 in terms of an advertising partner. It was like we spent a grand total of like $1 or $2 million annually. Like nowadays, like they won't even call you back if you spend that much.
I was going to say,
but like that that was like a big deal. And at the time, and I even met all the like Sergey Brin and all these guys. Like, the point was just to say, like, it was really eye-opening to see how, like just keyword advertising and stuff like this would, radically open up the market for like a business software thing where you could kind of just teleport into people's minds at the right time and be there to be evaluated by a customer. And in a very short period of time, like the revenues grew from like, 3 million to 15 million to 33 million, like for these various companies, like they were all in hyper growth. And it was this realization that like, there's the go to market is just so leveraged, and like how you execute. And, if you, especially in a field like software where the kind of the marginal cost is very low, and like the cost of development has been kind of already been accrued. Like, wow, like there's just so much leverage in this. And that just got me very interested in like Facebook ads, Google ads, that kind of work.
Love it. So what was kind of your big, I mean, you were right in the thick of it. I graduated 98, right? I was brand new in sales in 2000, and then the crash hit, right? what was one of your bigger takeaways from, or learning lessons, I guess, from the bubble burst of that first .com era that you were to apply? Because we've hit a couple of cents, right? The 2007 was more of the real estate crash, but it crashed the market. 2023 was the SaaS tech to a certain degree crash. So what was kind of a aha moment or something that you looked at back then that helped you with the subsequent ventures that you've been putting together here?
One is just like, I have a really great appreciation for timing and luck. It's like, people who graduated in 99, like that was like, I don't know if you know this guy, Chemath, on the All In podcast, like,
oh yeah.
Like he was actually like just 1 year ahead of me in my class, and and like he ended up like getting all these opportunities at Facebook. I graduated the next year, and it's like completely different space. So just I guess more philosophical on luck and the possibility that like you got here, but it wasn't necessarily like all just based off of your own actions. Another crazy thing was like when I got my first business funded, it was actually in August of 2008. And like the whole financial crash happened in September of 2008. So like I was like the last deal to make it through. And then after September of 2008, it was like pens down. We're not writing any more investments, for like 3-4 years. So it was I mean, it's hard to come out with something very concrete, I think. But the one thing that stands out is just like you can either be very lucky in the case of my second venture, or very unlucky in terms of my graduation year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and I'm a big believer these days, you kind of make your own luck, but and you look for opportunities, because you got to be agile. I think the one thing for me is just more agility, right? It's to be able to pivot fast and adjust and have an organization that can pivot. Because I think a lot of these companies, when something big happens and they're too structure oriented, or they're too kind of hyper focused on one certain thing and they can't adjust, usually helps them crash quite a bit. So I think right now, specifically in the world of AI, agility is the number one thing. So let's talk about, WordStream. Was WordStream your first venture that you got funding for?
Yeah. So I was just doing sort of computer-ish product management work for various software companies, and kind of discovered all these go-to-market capabilities of online marketing, and quit those jobs and started doing consulting work, which at the time was quite lucrative. Like you could, there wasn't as much information on the web on how to do this, and you could charge 5-10K a month for retainer-based services, and you could hire 8 to 10 clients as a solopreneur. And I wrote software to automate stupid repetitive tasks, and then around 2007 I just thought, like, what the heck, like I should really consider just trying to productize the tools that I was making, and I just pitched that idea to a bunch of VCs, and it was a process, but eventually got to a couple term sheets, and one of them closed. Like, as I was saying, it was a $4 million Series A investment with Sigma Partners in Boston. That was I was in my 20s, and that was kind of a big deal. And I thought I made it, but but of course,
hey, $4 million close, man. That's a pretty big damn deal to close.
Yeah, for like a 20-year-old or something. Like it feels great. I actually thought we made it. But in reality, it was it takes a decade to build a meaningful business and exit.
Yeah. Did you what did the funding process teach you? I mean, how many no's did you have to go through to get that one yes? Were you the typical, you met with 1 million of them and only a couple of them, or was there a pretty targeted list that you went after?
It's 100 pitches. Sorry, 1 to 200 email pitches or intros. That results in several dozen kind of first meetings. and 8 or so second meetings and 2 offers. It
Cool.
wasn't that linear though. I would describe it as follows: like the first time I went through the process, it was like all no's, and some of them would write emails back of like, here's some tips of like what we're looking for and that kind of thing. And if you can, well, I had revenue, so I had consulting revenue, so it wasn't like I needed this, like I could continue to operate. But I kept that feedback in mind, and I actually implemented some of those changes, like hiring more of a larger team, or getting more beta customers, or just like there was a bunch of things that they were looking for, and then it was kind of easier because I could just reply to the rejection letters and saying it's been a year. Here's the progress we've made. Would you be open to taking a second look? And that was sort of the bottom of that funnel, where 8 said yes, we'll take another look into 2 made offers.
Nice. Now you're back now with Customer AI. You're back to bootstrapping again, though, right?
The company did a Series A in 2023, around this time, like spring of 2023, and it was a $5 million.
Okay. So with the funding, was there a difference? Because a lot of VC, there's obviously different types of VCs invest differently, and as far as the resources and the tools, was it important to you, even though that equation, right? So let's go back to the WordStream one with that original funding, and then I'd like to talk to you about the same one with the Customers AI with that Series A round. Is were there certain criteria that you were using to evaluate the funders this time, the second time around, so that you kind of knew the type of partner you wanted? Or were you really of the mindset of, I really just need money, I don't need all the additional resources that some of these other VCs bring to the table? What was your thought process on who to partner with on this one?
It's funny. Typically when we did mention this, but I did sell WordStream for almost $200 million. It was acquired by Gannett for $150 million, and there was all these escrows and earnouts and cash. So that was a pretty spectacular exit. And typically what happens, like I raised about 18 million. So that's like plus 10x return. Typically, if you can do that for an investor, you're kind of set for life, and like they'll just write you a check for your next thing, like on day one, no business plan needed, kind of scenario. Unfortunately, Sigma Partners had decided to cease to operate, and so fund number 8 was their last fund, which was a $500 million fund. So basically, I was kind of on the street and trying to just find another kind of Series A investor. You look for people who have experience in the field that you're operating in. So like sales tech, martech was the field. I ended up getting an intro to a guy named Kevin O'Connor, who was the founder of DoubleClick, which was a big remarketing company acquired by Google for $3.2 billion or something like that. It was a really great fit because like my current company is a remarketing company. It's like a second generation remarketing company.
Mm-hmm. So with this new company, right? Talk us through this evolution of growth from, you had a VP of sales and then kind of restructured, and I think from what I understand, let go of the VP of sales, dropped the team from like 11 to 4 or something like that, give or take, and then you stepped in as founder led. Am I right on that?
Yeah. So it's just like scaling is incredibly difficult, and we were pretty sure we had what it took to scale the business, and that's why we did a Series A, because we had more leads than we could deal with and wanted to grow faster. I think I hired a kind of traditional sales leader, managing history of managing, AEs, this kind of thing, and John, do you believe in this whole founder mode kind of thing? Yeah. So like the theory of founder mode is like you shouldn't just like hire department leaders and have them run black boxes, because what they'll eventually do is just like lie to you and run the business into the ground.
Well, I know that feeling.
Well, essentially, there was all sorts of sins, like, being really lax on like ICP compliance, like selling to, people who really have no business using the software, or overcharging. There was a lot of sins, like, and because they're under pressure for, making certain numbers. And, I think, I kind of figured that out, what was happening, a couple quarters in, and, eventually we did a reboot of that, whole team, and went all founder mode and started, getting more intimately, involved with these deals, and running, sales processes, and, doing trials and evaluations, and establishing kind of sort of success criteria with the client, and then working through a trial to make sure that the success criteria was met, and so just instituting that motion over the last year, and it's been pretty successful. I've got a single digit. Basically, I cut the number of AEs down by 3 times. So a third of the AEs are generating, roughly twice the MRR. So it's pretty exciting.
So what was that shift? Because that's a pretty significant shift, less, more. And what were some of the metrics that you put in place that were really important for you, like KPIs wise, right? Versus, okay, hey, we're growing. I got this guy, black box, and, we're going to put some stuff on their head. But now with the shift towards more you getting involved and really understanding these proof of concepts or whatever you were trying to put in play there in trials, what were some of the metrics that you were paying attention to when you made that shift to help you get to that next level?
Yeah, I think we have less of that's how this stuff happens. Like, you start focusing on KPIs rather than really getting to the nitty-gritties of the fundamentals of what's happening. So I would say that we actually kind of started ignoring some of these KPIs, which I think were you can optimize for a KPI, or and make it look as good as you want it to look. The shift was more structural / fundamental around like training and education of the reps to truly understand the solution that we're offering, and the solution space that we're operating in. So just being able to run those trials, and speak their language and understand the business problems. So it's like, it was more like a education and training effort, as opposed to say, let's come up with new KPIs and et cetera. I think another kind of focus was around optimizing for return on investment. So we had a CS leader who was a little reluctant to go all in and promise like a hard ROI, like that a certain dollar amount or lift. But this is pretty leveraged technology with cart abandonment and stuff like this. Like it does seem to print money here. And so then shifting the focus of the sales process and the expectation setting to be more around hard ROI, and those were two among many things that we were focusing on.
Going back to the education and training, did you hire reps, or the ones that you kept, were they from the industry, or like what's your hiring profile, right? Because some people hire for experience and industry knowledge, others hire for grit and passion and drive. like what are some of the things with this new approach, your shift coming back in as you now scale? What are those characteristics you look for so that people can be plugged in?
Sure. The people who we kept, like the third that we kept, have certain, you know, aptitudes around grit, around resiliency, around uh, just intelligence. Like one of them is played college football, even, which is extremely competitive. So just rather than skills, skills would be like, oh, I know how to use Apollo, blah blah blah. Like, so I think the mistake is to over optimize or over index on skills, which I think is okay if you're like a Series C company and all the concrete has been poured and everything is like, all the buttons to press and everything. The issue with an earlier stage company is like, you're still trying to figure it out. And, that requires more of this, ability to problem solve and be resilient to change, those types of aptitudes. And that's kind of what we're optimizing for.
You said you also said that you hire on intelligence. So what's your definition of intelligence? Like GPA, like this kid's really smart in this thing, or how do you look at intelligence when it comes to a hire?
Just cleverness, to find it's not. Well, I don't get me wrong. I do value GPA, especially in the context of engineering hires and stuff like that. But in sales, I think it's just more like resourcefulness and grit and scrappiness.
Yeah, that's I don't want to name the company, but about 15 years ago when I was training one, I couldn't connect with the audience. It was the first time that I was standing up there and I'm like, something's off. They were taking notes, but like there was something off about the connection. And I remember asking the sales leader at the time, I'm like, can I ask, like, he's like, how do you think it's going? I'm like, I don't know, man. I think I'm bombing up there for the first time. I don't think I'm connecting with this audience at all. And he's like, what's going on? And I was like, can I ask you what your hiring profile is? And he's like, oh yeah, we hire from the best schools, the best, the highest. And I was just like, oh, okay. That's why. I'm a state school kid and I grinded my way through and I drank my way through college. Like, for me, I always want to your point, the grinder. I want the kid who had like 2 or 3 jobs, paid their way through, maybe, did okay, but didn't, ace everything, but shows the ability to be adaptable, to, handle adversity and those type of things. So I look for kind of the EQ intelligence versus the IQ intelligence when it comes to sales, obviously, but a lot of the other roles right now as well.
Yeah, of course.
Is there something you do specific to look for that in an interview? Is there a specific question or test or background that you look for that kind of says, yep, this person has grit or this person has adaptability?
Look, I don't want to say that I'm a psychic hiring person. Like I think it's like 50-50 or perhaps worse. It's just very, very hard, I think, to ascertain like how well people will do, an hour or 30-minute interview. I think, and I can't claim that I've figured it out, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, that's the art and the science of it, right? I mean, there is a certain gut, but unfortunately, when it comes to interviews, right? I always say with sales reps, this is their best sales job, or at least it better be their best sales job. And so to be able to pull that apart and really figure out what's real behind that sales, that sales pitch, if you will, is not exactly an easy thing to do. Cool. Well, so now let's, the trust factor here. When you went back and kind of got back involved, and you said you kind of took a much more customer centric approach to this and figured out about the KPIs and really wanted to figure out what the client needed. This is an industry, you're in an industry that, regulated and all these. So trust is a big factor with people investing in you and your solution here. So how do you build trust these days in a world that is so skeptical on almost everything? And balancing that with growth, right? Because I think that the easy answer is, you nurture each client, you make sure that they get all the, white glove service and everything that they need, and you under promise and over deliver and everything else. But tie that to growth, and that's where it starts to get a little squirrely there. So how do you continue to build trust with your clients as you try to scale this organization to the next level?
Um, we have a customer journey. There's 4 states, um, and this like it controls our customer like our CSM comp plans, like they're like how much they get paid. And the user journey is as follows. There are 4 states that the customer is in. It's either they're onboarding, they are optimizing, um, or they've kind of confirmed an ROI. A 4th stage is like, if they've renewed their contracts. So really, it's onboarding, optimizing, ROI confirmation. So the ROI confirmation stage requires that the customer write a positive review for us, or refer a friend.
Okay.
And
Nice.
the reason why, like, that's kind of a high bar, like, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but the reason is like, NPS, like the question for NPS is, on a scale from 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend this product or service to a friend or colleague? And so we're kind of like instantiating like that definition, saying like recommendation to a friend or colleague. That's either a referral or a review. And so but your question was like, how do you engender trust? Like we start these customer kickoffs with like, this is our process. We're going to get you to like an ROI confirm state. And at some point, you're going to be so happy with us that you're going to want to refer someone or write a review. And so it's like we kind of tell them what to expect, and that it's like our job to get the product to a point where you're seeing strong value, and if we do that, then the customer stays for a very, very long time and expands, and our business grows together with them. If we don't, like, all of the churn is in the non ROI confirmed pile, basically.
Okay. Do you find, just a small nuance, that like, do you find once you get to that stage, the ROI is there, the client's like, do they give you more referrals or do they give you more reviews, or is it 50-50?
It's I think referrals is a decent chunk of our revenue, but some people, like, just maybe they don't want to write a review or something. I don't know. It's just whatever they prefer.
Yeah, I get you. Well, I'd bring it up because I think that asking for referrals is just an absolute lost art, but it's the easiest lift of any sales organization, just to do what you say you're going to do. And then 2 to 3 months into the relationship, if it's doing, like, you should, to your point, put it as part of your process where, hey, we want to create raving fans out of you. And our goal is to get, to earn a referral, to earn a testimonial. But too many reps just kind of pass right by that, or sales reps, quite frankly. And that brings up, how is your sales rep and your customer success team? Talk to me a little bit about that handoff, if you will, and how involved in that transition is it? And then how involved does the sales rep stay in the account once it's transition to the customer success?
Sure. So the AE has to, like, I mean, the AE has to run the trial. So they have to establish the success criteria. They have to do the discovery, and what would be an exciting outcome if we were to do this. They have to document it, and we need to get the customer far enough along where they can see a path to getting to that ROI. Now, the issue is, like, we can't have a sales cycle that lasts forever, right? Like, marketing and sales, like, there's tweaking, there's campaigns, and like, you have to execute, and iterate. The handoff happens, like, when at the juncture where there's, like, a clear path to ROI and the success criteria. When they sign, typically we haven't, like, started doing all the campaign work, because that's like, that's basically like consulting work. Um, but that the handoff happens like at this juncture where they've seen enough that they have belief and conviction that there's a path to ROI, and then the CSM takes over at that juncture with the notes and recordings, call recordings of the discussions today.
Okay. And does the sales rep, after that handoff, do they stay involved at all, or do they, and are they the ones that circle back and when it's time for, hey, we hit those ROI metrics, or does the CS really just take it from there?
I've seen it done different ways. For us, we just have the CSMs manage the relationships, but I don't know if this is something that we should, be open to, continue iteration. Like I'm open to. I've seen it done in different ways.
Yeah, I mean, we're starting to see a shift back to kind of full cycle sales, and sales reps owning the relationship for cross sell upsell. I think it all depends on the business model, what you're trying to accomplish, and also, quite frankly, how you're trying to scale. Which brings me to the next question, which is, with relatively fast paced, right, making decisions quick, how do you maintain the kind of alignment, if you will, across the org from marketing to sales to customer success while you scale? Is it really just structure that you put in place and those milestones like, hey, here's the plan, stage 1, 2, 3, and 4, and everybody knows their role? But how do you do that and continue to evolve with how fast things are moving right now, just in like macro wise?
It's typically like, so we do a monthly all hands meeting and clearly articulate like what the key vision is and where we need to get to, and what each department is responsible for. And that, of course, is a derivative of like a quarterly offsite planning from our exec team.
Okay. So are you shifting a little bit more? I'm curious kind of your approach right now. You said a lot of your stuff comes through referrals and obviously from an inbound standpoint as well. Are you moving towards outbound? Did I read through this a little bit where you're moving a little bit more towards the outbound motion? And how are you balancing lead gen, if you will, from a channel management standpoint of the different types of channels, and where does outbound fit for you? And the reason I'm asking is because I'm seeing that shift of outbound, like the typical SDR BDR model, really starting to shift under marketing and be looked at as more of a marketing function from a brand exposure standpoint, positive impression points, and taking it back away from sales. So how are you looking at the outbound channel right now? Are you investing in it, and where does it sit?
Sure. I mean, inbound marketing is, it's just not targeted. Like you can't stop, randos from signing up for your offers and stuff like this. And I think the challenge is that, AEs, if something is rotated to them, they want to work it, and it's sometimes difficult to ascertain the kind of the discovery metrics, like in terms of like, is this the right fit for us or not? I think outbounding is sort of very key for this type of industry, and it's just something that we're doing a lot of experiments in. Outbound marketing channels are like, it would be, targeted advertising, emailing, calling, that kind of those types of motions. And it's just a work in progress, I would just say.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that right now things are changing so fast. It's almost, I'm hunting for what works and what doesn't work, right? But I think it's all this testing, iteration, and being agile, because what worked 6 months ago is just not working anymore right now. So how is the culture of your team? How are you experimenting, I guess, when it comes to trying to figure it out? Do you have an approach that you use to say, hey, let's do this for a period of time and see if it works, and for this persona versus that persona? Like, how do you experiment, I guess?
Well, we start with the goal in mind. So like, it would be nice if X% of the deals were sources through outbound or whatever. And then we try to enable the tools and skill set required to meet those objectives. So maybe it's certain type of software for doing outbounding, or or certain marketing types of events that are more conducive to that type of relationship building. And you just iterate. Like it's hard. It's we're actively working the problem. So.
Yeah. And quite frankly, I think that's the best answer, right? Because if somebody has an answer to me right now, this is working, so great, it'll work for now, but let's talk again in 6 months. And so many people get stuck on something that they think works because it worked a few times and it drove a quarter or two, and then they stick with that without iterating and constantly testing and looking at the data. That the results keep going the wrong way, and then they just try to throw more activity at it, more bodies at it, and it never works that way.
Can I give you one example? So,
Yeah,
I'm of the belief that trying to scale and doing outbounding is kind of well, it's hard because it's like you can get one reply off of like 10,000 emails sent, or something like that. It's terrible. And so one of the ideas we had was to strengthen the differentiators. So typically in sales software, like is, I don't know, like Carta any different from like Pulley, which is like a different cap table management? Like it's more or less the same. So like that's pretty typical. So one idea that we had in terms of our GTM was to really significantly increase the differentiators. Like not making it just like, oh, this is like 25% better, or a little bit easier to use, or if there's a new feature or function. We did some data testing of our competitor products in our space, and found that so we do ID resolution. It tells you like who's on your website without them having to fill out a form. So we're making guesses and using signals to try to predict who this person is. And what we discovered was, and then this was like over a year ago, that the competitive companies were the competitor companies were mostly wrong. Like not completely wrong, but they were making a lot of guesses, and maybe they were right like 5 to 30% of the time. We do things quite differently here. Like we're more of an engineering company, and we just, it's closer to like mostly right, like nothing's perfect, but it's like 65, 75, 80% accurate. So like we've been trying to scale outbound using more of a product led angle. Okay. So like you have to have something to highlight, like in the first place. And so the offer now is like, I mean, we still have the standard offers of, try out the thing. But we also are able to do like a data quality test. So we can, quite easily set up a way of just checking to see if the guesses being provided by other competitive, ID resolution providers are like on the mark or completely wrong. The thing that's quite surprising is that even though this technology seems to be producing decent ROI, it's actually wrong most of the time. And so like, just getting back to the question around like how to scale, like it's less at this juncture. It's less about like, trying this channel or that channel. It's more about sharpening the ROI and differentiators. Google doesn't do any marketing for their search engine when they came out, and when after like Alta Vista or Yahoo, like it was just a better quality product. Yeah. So I think that's sort of what we're doing right now.
Interesting. So it sounds like because I talk a lot about, not what you sell, how you sell, but you're leaning in on the key differentiators and then just testing different approaches to different, to drive different traffic.
Yeah, like website ID providers like Customers.ai have,
Yeah.
or other vendors in this space, they have one job, okay, and that job is to kind of tell you who the heck that person is.
Be as accurate as possible. Yeah.
So if this is a situation where like everyone else is like mostly wrong and we're like mostly right,
Yeah.
that's crazy. That's like I don't know, like a GPS that sends you to the wrong address, or
Yeah.
like a pregnancy detector that like oh, you're
Yeah.
pregnant, like what?
Yeah. Oops.
Like, just kidding.
Yeah.
It just seems like a kind of a existential like type of area to focus on. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree that because there is commoditization across the board on, I think, on everybody's product, right? But these days, like I said, table stakes is you got to do what you say you're going to do. But then all right, if you're super like this is exactly what we do and that accuracy needs to be pretty much where it is, then it's a pretty easy to cut discussion because it's objective, right? Like you can actually prove that through your, because a lot of people put stats out there to say, hey, but how, I don't know if a lot of people believe stats like, hey, we're 35% better or whatever it is. So how are you showing or proving the differentiator to the audience? Because a lot of us hear numbers, we're like, yeah, sure, okay, we're in 95% of the Fortune 500. Why? Because they have one license of your shit, right? So how do you really articulate that in a way that's believable?
Sure, I think it's got to be case studies. Not everyone is going to want to do a data test because it's inertia. Like you have the thing that you have, but a meaningful fraction of people will be open to doing that. And if since there is it's not just like a little bit different. It's like
Yeah. Drastically.
Yeah,
you're talking 5-10% versus 80%, man. That's a pretty drastic difference.
Like it's a multiple. Like when you have something that's like 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 times better, some will be open to doing that, and we're showcasing the results. I think it's good for the customers. I think it's good for the industry, and I'm sure I painted a big target on my back right now.
Hey, it's a way to differentiate, man. Like there's one thing about, I think, respectively, sharing content and ideas out there on social without, shitting all over everybody else, but basically saying, look, here's the data, and educating the audience on, what they should be paying attention to or what the reality is, and the journey that you're on as far as figuring this out, I think is the way to do it without ruffling too many feathers, even though the competition usually gets pretty pissed when you call them out.
I mean, it's just I've never, this is a new experience for me. I've traditionally just done the, like, our product, it has this feature that this other one doesn't. Like, it's never been like going for the jugular.
Right.
Like they're giving you the wrong person a lot of times here.
Yeah.
But like what we do is hard. Like what we're doing is very, very hard. And I can't imagine our competitors would be able to build this kind of infrastructure. But we're more of a engineering background than a sales traditional sales marketing kind of thing.
I love it, man.
Yeah, so
focus on your strengths, right?
we're gonna build advanced technology here, and that's our GTM here.
Love it, man. Well, look, anything else? I mean, any other learning lessons for the audience on this journey of yours, or thing that you want to share with the audience before we wrap things up?
Just an appreciation for how long these journeys take, like my company WordStream was there's an incredible success. It was like close to $200 million distributed to shareholders off of 18 million raised, and that included venture debt. So like that wasn't even wasn't even that dilutive, looking back, it was like the hardest time ever. Like it was like rolling a rock up a hill the whole time. It felt like, it's just any encouragement around the journey here.
Yeah, stick with it, right? And also, if you genuinely have a belief in what you're doing, I think that's the key. If you're all in on this idea and you got the the alignment and the vision and all that other stuff, you can't get discouraged. You got to keep pushing through, or else you'll give up a lot. You'll give up too quick, and that's what I see a lot of people. They have ideas, they have good ideas, and are willing, but it gets really fucking hard. This glamorization of entrepreneurship over the past 5 to 10 years is really, I think, put a false narrative on, leave your company and just start a business. And, then you work for yourself and you have all this freedom, and it's quite often, it's like the exact opposite, but to me, it's a healthier
It's just the hardest thing ever. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Awesome, Larry. Well, where can people find out more about Customers.ai and where you want to send them?
If you have a website, a visitor identity solution, and you're wondering if it's lying to you or if it's actually correct, like we do have an offer, Customers.ai/test. It's pretty new. Otherwise you hit me up on LinkedIn or Twitter. I'm also on those two platforms.
Perfect, man. Well, I'm looking forward to continuing to watch the journey here and see how it all plays out online. That's the fun part about this, is sometimes you can actually watch the evolution based on how active we are on social and see how it goes. So I'm looking forward to following the journey here, man. I appreciate you coming on board.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Yeah, and absolutely. And hopefully everybody enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. And like I said at the end of all of these, go out there and make somebody smile today, because no matter how bad your day went or how bad you think it's going, you make somebody smile today, you know you had a good day, and the world needs a lot more of that right now. So thank you all very much, and I will see you on the other side. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. With your support and our incredible guests, we're one of the top sales podcasts out there right now, and I can't thank you enough. Now, to keep the momentum going, it would mean the world to me if you could go and leave a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform and share some of your favorite episodes with your network. Also, I am super excited to be launching my new newsletter, where I'll be sharing everything I know and everything I'm learning along the way while I'm out there selling every day just like you. Go to jbarrows.com/newsletter to sign up today. Let's all level up and make this happen together.